immediately throw down a creep tumor. You're, of course, like one of the most active players about throwing down a creep tumor. So we're at 5 minutes and 15 seconds. So I'm going to pause right now. I'm currently paused at 5 minutes and 17 seconds in this replay. And I want to come back for a moment because I feel like most Zerg players are aware that creep is useful because their units just feel not shitty when they're on the creep. Like, the Hydralisk is the slowest unit in any RTS game ever when it's not on creep, so I know that a lot of people are motivated in that regard. But I'm curious if you could comment on like your experience of using creep, where if you're playing a game and you think, oh, if only I had creep, then I could do blah. Or, oh, that game would have been won if I just had a little bit more creep around the map. Because, again, you are one of the few players I've seen who build, like, 9 creep tumors and just have the whole map coded in Laffy Taffy.
Yeah, I agree. If I don't spread creeps, I almost always lose my games because Circus isn't really as mobile as it could be with creep. So I have a very strong opinion about Hydralisks. I don't believe you can use them off creep at all. I believe
Really?
they are a pure on creep unit.
Huh. That's a interesting way to put it. Huh. So, in that case, you think that a Hydralisk drop would be reasonable? Because if you have all the overlords there, you can immediately vomit the creep and that sort of thing?
Yeah, sure. That way it could work. And of course, you can sometimes attack with Hydralisks if there are no siege tanks or no colossi, but as soon as there is some kind of counter to the Hydralisks, they are completely useless when they are not fast.
Yeah, and I guess you have a really hard time getting up to them. And I know that, like, in this game, and a lot of your other Zerg vs. Terrans, I see you going for a big Zergling Infestor composition. And I'm assuming that the fact that Zerglings literally move at the speed of light on creep, that helps quite a bit for counterattacks and counter harassment, I would assume.
Yeah, but it also helps in the battle because your Zerglings are going to do more damage on creep just because they're faster and because they are melee units.
That's a good point, yeah, because I do want to emphasize that even a little bit more because, I mean, I don't think enough people value the idea of speed in terms of being able to do damage because always the faster unit gets the bigger concave. So, for instance, Starcraft 1, this happens where, if you have speed Zerglings against Zealots, the speed Zerglings wrap around the Zealots a lot more easily, and as a result, fewer Zealots are attacking and more Zerglings are attacking, but without speed, it's a little bit more of an even wall. They're almost the same speed, so the Zealots can spread out a lot more thinly. An even better example is like Roaches against anything really when Roaches don't have the speed upgrade, especially because Roaches have that range 3. They need a really good concave. So, I mean, that's something that I've been personally experiencing a lot lately. It's just that, like, I want my creep when I have Roaches because they're so slow. And they do that stupid hop, so they're, like, not even in unit speed movement. Gives me the rage, man. But alright, I'm going to come back here to this replay. I'm currently at 5 minutes and 17 seconds. You ready to resume with me, dog?
Yeah, it can start.
Alright, 3, 2, 1, playing it. So I'm at 5:18. And of course, Hellion Harass bounces right in. That definitely is Jinro playing. So I want to know a little bit about your plan for the mid-game, because, I mean, I always emphasize having a plan for the long term. What is, like, your general goal for the center part of the game?
Well, I want to have a long game, so my general plan is to be able to get a third expansion, especially at Zerg, because I believe the third expansion is very important at Zerg. So I'm trying to survive like early game pushes and then try to macro up so I can do a draw play and start harassing my opponent.
And do you think the Infestors, like, how important are those for defending? Because, I mean, I know players have a lot of issues with Hellion Harass in the mid-game, especially against mech, and I assume that the fungal growth plus creep all over the map is definitely going to be helpful there.
Yeah, definitely. Infestors are like one of the best defensive units in the whole game. They can even compete to tanks if you think about it, because you can literally stop any kind of harassment if you have infestors at all your bases.
Huh, that is a good way to put it, yeah. Because drops, Hellion harass, even little annoying runarounds. And here's you smiling in the game, gleefully. Oh, but you lost a creep tumor, so I feel your pain.
Jinro is very clever because he knows how important creep is. So
Uh-huh,
he's
yeah.
going to sacrifice scans to kill them.
Yeah, I definitely think that's, like, super valuable. One thing I'm noting is that, like, you don't really seem to have that many drones at your expansion here. And I'm curious if you could comment a little bit on that, because, for instance, I see that you have one creep tumor, or excuse me, one spine crawler to the left of the hatch, but none really to the right. And generally, I plant one right here between these two geysers, and then one closer to the ramp. And then I can cover a wider area and get way more drones before a lot of Zerglings. But I'm seeing a lot more Zerglings instead of drones. Is there a reasoning behind that, or were you trying to get more drones at your expo?
Well, I have scouted 2 factories from Jinro, so I know he has a very late expansion, and I can play safe and get more Zerglings, so I don't get run over by this tank Hellion push.
Oh yeah, the tank
And
Hellion push.
And I also like to have the crawlers at the left, so if Hellions come in the right side, you can usually trap them with Zerglings and Queens.
Yeah.
So it's no big deal if they are coming from the right side.
Huh, that is interesting. Yeah, because that's definitely one thing that I personally have not experienced a lot is, like, tank Hellion pushes, like what Jinro's doing right now. And oh, there's your huge surround. Oh yeah, I guess Zerglings are working out pretty nicely. And to, like, help with your Zerglings, I'm noticing that you actually have 2 control groups here of Zerglings. Was that intentional? Were you using both of those at the time?
Yeah, I use them for the surround of the Hellions.
How exactly do you do that? Can you explain that a little bit? Because I'm noticing that there's even... oh, no, there is no overlap between those. But, you just artificially split them? Is there some sort of number system you use, like most of them in one control group or a few in the other?
Well, that was kind of random, I guess, because new Zerglings spawned at that point, and I just put them in a new control
Oh, okay.
group while I had every other Zerglings at the ramp.
Alright, cool. Cool. And we do have Jinro. Looks like he just went to factory pretty normally. Is now getting his orbital command pretty normally at his expansion. Hasn't gotten the +1 upgrade yet. Getting a reactor barracks. Almost certainly going to be giving that to the factory. And you're still tracking down these Hellions. And I mean, really, for anyone watching, this is one of the main reasons why Creep is so helpful. Like, this annoying-ass Hellion, just getting to do whatever he wants. But if there was Creep, no such problems would occur. I mean, and look, you had to follow him, like, across the entire map. Would you even ever favor getting an earlier 3rd Queen on 2 bases, just to spread Creep tumors and to have transfusion for your spine crawlers, maybe?
Oh yeah, I do that a lot, especially if I'm not sure if my opponent is going air. I
Yeah,
usually get a
definitely.
hive, and then I'm getting a 3rd queen with my 2nd hatchery.
Okay, and I'm seeing this, and I'm thinking that you're crazy. You're getting your hive, like, a few seconds before you even get your hatchery. Can you explain the giga-fast hive? Are you ultralisk rushing?
Yeah, I want to get ultralisks, because I believe ultralisks are even better than in Starcraft 1.
Holy
Because
shit! Whoa! Whoa, okay, I'm pausing. We're at 11 minutes and 27 seconds. Defend yourself. Defend thyself. I want to know about this explanation, because I seriously, like, I'm not gonna lie, I've been experimenting more with ultralisks in, like, the last 3 or 4 days of the patch, and I've been having a lot more success with them, but of course, Brood War ultralisks are dear to my heart. I've won tournaments with ultralisks in StarCraft 1, man. So what do
okay,
you mean by that?
let me try to explain. In Starcraft 1, you needed a queen's nest to get a hive, right?
Height.
And queens were literally useless, and well, maybe not useless, but not
You
really
rarely
used at
get them.
all by most players.
Yeah, yeah.
And so you could basically add the queen's nest to the costs for taking up to the hive because you didn't use the queens. While on the other hand, I am using infestors, so it's a free tag. I've got the tag anyways, and I'm using the tag, and it helps me getting to hive. So I can get really fast ultralisks and still have a competent army fighting my opponent because I do have the infestor tag.
So, so that's I agree that it definitely smooths out the tech pattern a little bit more. But I'm curious about like the ultralisks themselves, because they seem a little bit slower. I think especially they're one of those units that, like the hydralisks, they suffer quite a bit off creep,
Yeah.
and they're just clunky. They bump into each other. If there's like two zerglings in front, then the ultralisk literally can't move. I don't know if you've had easier ways of controlling them or dealing with that lack of immobility in StarCraft 2.
Well, I believe it's a lot more important to send in the ultralisks at the first units than it was in StarCraft 1, because in StarCraft 1 you basically just send in everything at once.
Yeah.
And I have started to send in my ultralisks. They take the first tank fire, and then I send in my